Hello and welcome to the Leaders of Tomorrow, the only show on Indian television right now where you, the MSME, get center stage to voice your opinions and thoughts. This is ETNA's special daily initiative to give MSMEs and entrepreneurs the opportunity to be front and center in every industry and area that matters to you. On Influencer tonight, we bring you a conversation with Viraj Kalyani, and on Leader Focus, we bring you a segment on the hospitality space. Tonight on Influencer, we're bringing you a conversation that I did earlier with Viraj Kalyani. He's the founder of Kalyani Studio, and of course, he is the executive director of Kalyani Forge, to talk about innovation and to talk about disruption in the manufacturing space. Take a look. Thank you for joining us here on the Leaders of Tomorrow, Viraj. It's always a pleasure to have young entrepreneurs like yourself on the show. So very quickly, maybe I can ask you to talk to our viewers about what Kalyani Studio does.
Sure. So Kalyani Studio is a high-strength design and engineering company. What we're doing is creating an entirely new industry of high strength, which involves very high physical loads and forces on under-the-hood products across industries like automobile and railway, aerospace, industrial segments. And we look at product design from the concept stage, early ideation stages, through to engineering analysis using software as well as prototyping. And we make sort of a final prototype workable models, which R&D teams and innovation teams at OEMs can use for their innovation pipeline.
Where did the idea for this come about?
So it came from a lot of interactions that I had with OEMs while I was working in Kalyani Forge, which was over the past 4 or 5 years. And I've seen the industry from a lot of different perspectives. Many OEMs were looking for design inputs from manufacturers, and it could be forging suppliers or any other technology, but they were looking at product design input, whereas manufacturers were better at process design, and they're focused on their own manufacturing space. So I could see that gap where clients and OEMs, because of their fast pace of development, they have to look outside for collaboration of new product development. They cannot do it entirely in-house because it would take a lot of time, and then new models will come out by some other competitor. There's a lot of innovation happening in the digital space over the last 2 decades.
But not so much in the manufacturing space.
Yeah, or I'd say not just manufacturing, but physical products.
Okay. So what is holding us back, Viraj? Because a lot of the MSMEs who talk to us say, yes, we do understand the need to be doing R&D, but either it's a cost factor or it's a push. You know, when you speak with your OEMs, when you speak with your clients, what's the number one thing they're telling you?
Well, surprisingly or sort of positively, they have been very receptive to the idea of investing in innovation and upfront design thinking. They do not really come across with a point of view of cost cutting. Of course, they have to be cost effective and their products have to be profitable. So we work on product profitability. But going back to your point of the importance of R&D and fundamental R&D, I really think that it's rooted in our ancient culture. R&D is rooted in our ancient culture. And another reason that could hold us or was holding us back is a lot of tendency to cut corners, what we know as jugaad. And I've been a strong opponent of it. I don't think it's Indian, even though we may like to
claim it as our own.
Yeah. But it's just a sort of coping mechanism when there is scarcity of resources.
I remember an interview I had done with Infosys several years ago where they said that when it comes to R&D, it's always a question of justifying the ROI to their clients. What would you have to say to that as far as your own clients are concerned?
Sure, because we do not look at research as something that has to be very long term. Yes, you should have some long-term projects, but there are many milestones in between which should have material outcomes and objectives, not just theoretical outcomes. And we work on an outcome-based model, outcome-based pricing model, where suppose a client has a problem with one of their under-the-hood components and they want to improve the performance by 10x. We would do that in a short period of time, like it would be a project for 3 months or 6 months, depending on the complexity. You have to have some divergent thinking and convergent thinking. And the convergent thinking is when you start closing your options and getting to a conclusion so that you start seeing the return on investment.
Let's talk about the role of the government. Even as the government is pushing Make in India, how is that going to come about? How is that going to get actualized? And how does a company like yours then help MSMEs to achieve this vision?
Sure, that's extremely important and a really good question. We see ourselves as catalysts for the Make in India movement because we want to pioneer a design and engineer in India movement. And both these, I'm fully convinced, have to run parallelly. If one comes after the other, then what's going to happen is we're just going to be a banana republic, to put it bluntly. We'll get technologies from outside and manufacture based on a certain print. But we got to manufacture and innovate in parallel processes, parallel streams. So even if you're a small company just starting out or you're reinventing your business, there's a lot of innovation you can do. There are so many products in the Indian market across industries which have tremendous scope for improving their performance. And it's just about starting to bridge that gap and having faith that we can build the technology here.
You're making an interesting point, so, and I want to talk about Skill India. India may be producing a vast pool of engineers, but we understand from various industry associations that they don't necessarily have the skill sets required for for the job profiles. What are you doing about that?
I don't agree with that premise in the first place, and that's where I'm saying industry has to take responsibility to redesign their jobs. We bring in college graduates and give them really routine work, and then they have to climb a long ladder to start doing something more complicated and interesting. But we got to start recognizing that there are different personalities, at any age group, it doesn't matter, different tendencies and skills. So somebody can do analysis work right straight off of college, and that's what we do in our company. We give engineering analysis work to fresh grads. We also give design work. Typically in the E&D industry, you have to first do design, and then after a few years you get into analysis. So we got to break those mental models.
I guess what I guess what I'm also trying to understand is if that at any future point, if you see training manpower as being a business model for you.
We'd look at training our manpower as and we do look at individual development plans for our employees as a very strategic capability, but it's something that we use to then produce high technology, high fidelity technology. So just training as a business model may not help us realize the vision of high strength sciences and engineering, because ultimately it has to result in the products and the physical applications.
Okay, what's it going to take for India's manufacturing and engineering prowess to compete effectively with its global peers?
That's a very big question, but I think it's, as you said, manufacturing and engineering prowess, they both have to go hand in hand. They have to go simultaneously. We have to set our sights high. We cannot go with a begging bowl outside the country for asking for technology from outside. That just doesn't make sense anymore, because technology can come from anywhere, and everybody has access to the internet, to a lot more knowledge. A lot of these barriers are coming down. So it's just about getting the right people in place, managing people's talent well and towards innovation. That's the secret, if I could use that term, to really be global standard level.
Okay, as I'm winding down this interview, I want to talk about the use of technology. We are at a stage when a lot of new age companies are using things like AI. How much of that are you able to use in your business, and what can you tell our viewers about how they can perhaps use these new technologies?
Yeah, we are actually using AI in our business, in our internal engineering analysis processes. In fact, one of our engineers recently created a new artificial neuron network based analysis program. So it's going to come. It's a tool and a means to an end. That's how we look at AI. And of course, other companies can make use of it. They should look at the costs and benefits over a longer period of time. But while they're using this kind of technology, you got to look at how you will redeploy your team to doing more creative work.
Okay.
That's very important.
A quick last word, what's the big vision for Kalyani Studio?
So the long-term vision is, it's about high strength, as I said earlier. We work on everything above 1 megapascal of pressures and strength requirements. So we are defining that spectrum as we speak through our high strength innovation team. We're creating this niche. So in the long term, we would also come up with our own specialty physical components that could be used across many industries, many applications, and they could be standardized so that a lot more innovation can be built on top of that.
Thank you so much for being with us here on the Leaders of Tomorrow, Viraj.
Thank you for having
Thanks.
me.
Time for a break. When we come back on the other side, we'll bring you a hospitality focused segment on Leader Focus. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow, and tonight we're bringing you on our Leader Focus segment a conversation on the hospitality industry. Ayana Resorts and Z Luxury Resorts are in conversation with Pooja Jain. Take a look.
Amrita, Rajesh, thank you so much for joining us. And I'd like to sort of dive right in. There are many new age business models that have emerged in the hospitality space. Your thoughts on them, and have you embraced them internally?
I suppose what it's all come down to is the consumer behavior, right? So as the consumer themselves are consuming in fragments, the industry itself as a service-oriented business needs to fragment itself. And essentially what you've seen is specializations. So as opposed to the old system of going to a travel agent and having everything from your airline booking to taxi service, airport pickup, hotel stay, itinerary for sightseeing, all of that being managed by one service provider, you essentially are specialists now, and the consumer being able to book that independently, and that's sort of fragmented into specialized service providers as well, and that's essentially what I think has led to this, the newer businesses that are so specific in terms of their offering.
Mm-hmm. Rajesh, your school of thought here?
Yes, I agree with that as well, because and in the service apartment segment also we have more long stay businesses which we're looking at. So for us, it's more like we feel that it's home away from home, so we need to keep our clients, in every aspect, to stay with us longer. And so from any field, whether we're getting it from online or from the sales team or whatever the segment is, but we need to add a lot more personalized touch to them, so that they feel at home and more comfortable. So yes, technology is helping a lot, because today everyone's using technology, So yeah, I feel it's different aspects that can be combined and used in the benefit of the property, for sure.
Well, speaking of clients, the client mix is always changing between business travelers, leisure travelers, and the combination of the two. So how do you adjust your offerings to cater to these?
Well, India is now the 10th largest domestic business travel market in the world. And so that obviously dictates to a large extent, at least in terms of where the market rate sits at. What we see is a blending of business and leisure to a large extent. So research has shown that with at least the millennial generation, the tendency is to combine a business trip with an extended day or two where they're partaking in an excursion into the city, or at least some evening activity that's that's local. And so there is a sort of blending of the two. But when it comes to the Indian market in particular, I mean, if you see it today, the market's just at the beginning of an upswing, and for the first time in 9 years you've had 5% RevPAR growth, which you've seen compared, especially if you look at this first quarter. And so if you're looking at the May end numbers, all the increases that you're seeing are all driven because there were certain conventions in town, or IPL, for example. So it's either event-led or business-led, and that's essentially where the swings in the market are coming from.
Now, location has become such a buzzword when it comes to the hospitality space. But what are the strategies that drive site selection ultimately for the both of you?
When we're scouting for locations, I mean, the first thing you're taught in hotel school is it's location, 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 right? So if you get that location wrong, there's nothing you can do to fix it. For us, it's primarily frontage. So, where the site sits in terms of access. We typically look at what you have alongside, because you don't, want to start a greenfield development and then realize there's a tower coming right next to you that's going to block the view. So, knowing what else is developing around you against, your own boundary lines. I think with sites, I do believe that there's a feel, that you get from the land, and that's probably what I enjoy the most, in fact, about being in this industry.
The client mix is constantly evolving. There's a mix of business travelers, leisure travelers. How do you cater to their needs, and how does your business model adjust as a result?
Well, the new key phrase they use is bleisure, which is your business guests who then stay on, on site. A lot of times with millennial travelers, what you have is an extension of a business trip to include the weekend, where they are staying on to explore the city, do an activity, take in the local environment. And so bleisure is something that I think a lot of the urban hotels are now looking at, which is is certainly a trend. And I think in India, we're always more skewed towards the business market, only because we're the 10th largest domestic business travel market in the world. And so with that, what happens is that the impact it has in terms of your trading statistics is rather dramatic. So, for example, now in this first quarter of this year, you've seen a RevPAR increase of 5% year on year, simply because you had the IPL and another African bank event that took place. And so the impact that business travel has is quite dramatic in that sense. And so it's certainly a market that we're more skewed towards in India.
Do you believe in standardizing the experience across the brand, or creating a custom tailored experience that infuses the look and feel of the location? What school of thought do you belong to?
In the case of Ayana, because we're Indian service, that's essentially our ethos, and so that's the underlying factor that you'd see across, and that's where your consistency comes in from. But from a design perspective, we've tried to go completely local. So if we've got a 600-room hotel in Mecca, which is catering to the pilgrimage travel, so that has influences based on that need for serenity and peace of mind. In Doha, we've got a service department project right in the center of the financial district, but you've got access to all the major diplomatic areas. and so you want that sense of place to come in because you want your guests to wake up and at least know where they are in the world. I think the cookie cutter format that the big American brands used to follow, has sort of dissolved now because there is no need to now copy that across the world. I think from a consumer perspective also, there's localization, and that whole neighborhood feel is something that even the bigger American brands are going for now.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with her. As far as the property is concerned, definitely there has to be a great mix of standardization as far as the services and look and feel of the property is concerned. But every city is different, so localizing to the local people makes a lot of difference. And also, since we're more into long stay, personalization. So when it comes to F&B, the restaurants and the outlets in the property, localizing makes a great feel of difference, for the customers to get a feel of the local market, the local cuisine, a few things in the interiors that you can localize, to make it look more appealing to the, look and feel of the city. So that really helps in the overall,
And words of wisdom for first-time entrepreneurs, perhaps looking to build a career in hospitality.
Well, as a third-generation hotelier, I think my real focus was trying to bring in scale, and I was looking at a model that I could, one, develop and also grow, and therefore going the asset-light route made the most sense. So we've completely shifted from the traditional format of owning assets to being asset-light and being a pure-play management company. So with Ayana, the idea really was to be able to grow the business much faster, at a much faster pace than we would if we followed the traditional development route.
Yeah, I think I would agree with her as well, totally. For us as well, the asset light module would be the ideal way to expand, and make the brand, further reach in different parts of the country to begin with, and maybe international sooner than later. And yeah, I feel it is definitely for the younger generation and the generation who's going to come in, into the same business. It is, I think, that is the way forward.
Who've been the biggest influences in your careers?
I think looking at my own sort of trajectory, my biggest influence is probably still my grandfather, because he was considered to be a maverick of sorts. Every hotel he built, you had naysayers who said that, oh, he's really pushing his luck this time. And one of the things he's very famous for saying is that he doesn't believe in good luck, and that luck is something that happens to people who try something new and push their boundaries. So I think that ability to take risks and not being afraid to pursue a dream, that's probably what's my biggest inspiration.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Completely out of time then on this episode of The Leaders of Tomorrow. If you have anything you want to say to us or you want to participate here on the show, you can always write in at leadersoftomorrow@timesgroup.com. On social media, tweet at me at Sunanda_J or LOT_ET now. On Facebook, we are on Leaders of Tomorrow on ET now. You can also call us on that number that you see on your screen. We promise to have all your questions answered. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.